Hi friends, it's Teacher Maria. On this episode of Nerdybug's Teacher Corner, I want to share with you a few ways that you can engage with your young students even through virtual platforms. So even if you're teaching through Zoom, through Microsoft Teams, or through Google Meet, there are still ways that you can engage with your young students. And I'm going to show you how today. I made a list of the different things that I do in class to keep my students engaged, but there's something I have to say, okay? I don't manage to keep my students engaged 100% of the time. I would say I keep them engaged like 70 to 80% of the time. I don't know if that's a good number or not, but I do think that it's a realistic number. So if you're watching this video, I do want you to improve. I do want you to learn something. I always try to learn. I always try to improve. But I never expect perfection because at the end of the day, they're still kids and they're still gonna get distracted. But that being said, we can still try to do our best to engage them as much as possible. Okay? So just remember that it's okay if they're not engaged all the time. No teacher is perfect. You can't always have a super fun lesson. When you take that pressure off yourself, I feel like it's going to be a much smoother process. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to share with you is to involve your students as much as possible. So what are ways that you can involve the students online? One way would be asking them to show you things that they have in their house and to incorporate it into your lesson. Another way that you can keep them involved is to ask them to talk about their experiences. So for example, if we're talking about the weather and I'm going to teach them about sunny days and I'll tell them on a sunny day, we go to the beach. Have you ever tried going to the beach? And I'll ask the students to share about experiences of them going to the beach. Okay, this kind of method does take time. It does consume a bit of your teaching period, but I think it's worth it. Because I feel like if you're trying to teach them so much and you're doing so much of the talking, in theory, you may have covered more topics, but how much did they learn really? And how much did they enjoy the process? Because them enjoying the process is part of the learning. The more they enjoy it, the more they listen to you, the more they learn, right? So you do have to find a balance between making sure that you cover the lessons that you need to cover, but also not sacrificing engagement, fun, games, letting them talk about themselves. And when you find that sort of nice balance in between, I feel like you're gonna have a good lesson. All right, so the second thing that I do to engage my students still revolves around the thought of involving them. The second thing is to give my students choices. So a lot of times in class, I prepare two options for them to choose. So for example, before the class, we usually play a game. I'll ask them to choose what game they want to play. So kids, do you want to play Simon Says or do you want to play musical chairs? And they can choose. And when they choose, it gives them the feeling that they're more involved. Like, oh, this is my game because I chose it. And the teacher listens to what I have to say, right? So when you're playing the game, they're more likely to involve in it more and have more fun because they're the ones who wanted to play it. So when you give them choices, there is a possibility that two students will say the two different choices. So what would I do in that case? I would probably pick out one of the students, maybe the one who hasn't been participating as much. I'll go for their choice and then I will tell the other student, all right, tomorrow we're going to play your game. And tomorrow, don't forget, when you start your class, you say, oh, I remember that this student said that we're going to play this game, so we're going to play it now. Make sure you follow through because that helps them to, again, feel like you're listening to them. And the more they feel like the things that they say matter, the more they want to engage with your lesson. Okay, so the next thing I kind of covered in one of the tips earlier. It's not to rush and to listen to them. I think it's really important when you're having a class to be present, to actually listen to them, and to incorporate the things that they say, the things that they're doing into the lesson. The thing is, I noticed that I wasn't good at doing this. Like, for example, there were times when I was giving the class, but my mind wasn't fully there. Especially this year, I'll be honest, a lot of times my mind was going into me being self-conscious about the kids' parents being there with them, right? And so when I was entertaining more so the thought of like, how do I look? Am I being silly? Am I doing a good job? In my head, I wasn't actually listening to them anymore. I wasn't being present anymore in the class. I noticed that in those moments, my class didn't flow as well. Because you're not really there. Because you're not really trying to have a good conversation with your students, right? So when you have a class, forget about everything. When a student is talking to you, actually listen to them. Actually listen to them. And I'm telling you, it's going to make a difference. You're going to be able to play off their energy. You're going to be able to have a real conversation, and you're just going to enjoy the lesson more. So the next thing is you need to have high energy, right? So even now, like I'm talking and I feel like this is so low energy compared to how I would be in my class. So maybe I'll insert a clip from my IGTV here just so you can see how high energy I need to be when I'm actually in class. If your name is Allison and you're wearing a blue dress, jump in front of the camera, jump and jump and jump. Yay! Good job, Allison! If you're in nursery 1A and you're ready to have fun, ready? Jump in front of the camera, jump and jump and jump! Yay! Handshake. 1, 2, 3, and fist bump. So the next thing that you can do to keep your students engaged in person or online is to switch up your activities. You need to have a variety of activities that you do in your class if you don't want them to get bored. Because if you keep on doing the same things, sometimes you can just see, you've mentioned that you're going to do an activity and they're like, no, you don't want that. You need to avoid that as much as possible. Also, try to keep a list or an inventory of the games that you play in class, right? When I'm at a loss of what I need to do in my class, I go to that notebook and I have ideas like, oh, right, I remember we did this last time and they had fun, so I can do this again. It's been a while. And I think that doing that, keep changing up my activities, has been a way that I've been able to keep my students engaged. Okay, so another thing that you can do is to incorporate some of their favorite things. So for example, we're doing counting. Instead of just counting balls or counting candies, we're going to count the dogs from Paw Patrol. And they see the dogs from Paw Patrol and they're excited and they're engaged, right? Because those are their favorite characters. So of course they want to listen. Of course they want to follow along. In the beginning of the year, I actually send them out the official information sheet, which is sort of what the school sends out, asking them, you know, their name, their parents' name, contact numbers, and things like that. So that's the official information sheet that I sent out. But I also sent out my own information sheet, which is all about their favorite things. It's kind of like, you know, when we were in grade school and we all had this kind of notebook with, it said name and then favorite color, favorite toy, and we would let all of our friends sign it. It's kind of that concept, right? So I give them that information sheet and they tell me what's their name, what's their nickname, what's their favorite color. I can actually link it below if you want. And basically that way I know what I can incorporate into my lesson to keep them more engaged. Another thing that you can do to keep your students engaged online or in person is to add as much music as possible. Like, you can turn anything into a song, right? As a preschool teacher, I feel like it's a skill that we sort of acquire, is turning literally anything into a song. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm telling them to get their crayons or something, and I'll be like, okay, everybody, get your crayons, get your crayons, get your crayons. Okay, everybody, get your crayons. Let's color and have fun. I don't know. I literally just made that up, right? I just like to add as much music as possible into my lesson. And for example, if you're teaching days of the week, teach it with a song. Weather, teach it with a song. I teach every single letter in the alphabet with the Jolly Phonics song. I made up songs for each number. I teach the opposites with songs, everything. Either I find a song online or I make the song. So you definitely incorporate a lot of music into your lesson. If you can, add actions to the song so that they also move. And I feel like that will help your lesson flow much better. Okay, so the next thing is to make everything a game. If you're a preschool teacher, you probably never tell your students we're going to study, right? You tell them we're going to play a game, and in your game, you're basically studying. But they still keep the perception that they're playing a game. And so, for example, it can be anything, like I'm reviewing the letters and I'm gonna say, oh, let's play a game. Let me see who can say the letters super fast. And I'm literally just doing flashcards, right? But the fact that I'm challenging them to do it fast and I'm showing the energy I would if we were playing a game, they think that we're playing a game and they have fun because kids like to play games. So yeah, as much as possible, make everything a game and they're going to have fun and they're going to engage with your lesson. Which brings me to the last tip that I have for you today, which I think is the most important, or at least one of the most important tips that I have. And it's to have fun. I'm not saying the kids need to have fun. I'm saying you need to have fun. If you're having fun with your lesson, they're going to sense your energy, they're going to feed off your energy, and they're going to have fun. If they can sense that you're bored, that you don't even think it's a good idea, that you're sleepy, they're going to feed on that energy, right? So I always tell myself, if I want my students to have fun, I need to create activities that I'm going to have fun with. I need to enjoy my lesson. I need to be really feeling it when I'm telling you, all right guys, let's play Simon Says. I'm having fun. And they see me having fun and they want to have fun with me. So I definitely suggest create activities that you're gonna have fun with, enjoy them, don't overthink them, don't put pressure on yourself, just enjoy it, have fun, and I'm sure your kids are going to enjoy it as well. You're going to keep them engaged, you're going to learn a lot, you're going to have fun doing it, and you're going to end your lesson thinking, wow, that was good. I did a good job, they did a good job, and we all had fun. Alright, so that's the end. Those are my tips for keeping your students engaged in person or online. Okay, if you found this helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could like it, if you could comment, more so if you could subscribe. That's a way for you to be able to get more helpful tips for teaching preschool students, and that also helps me out a lot. So yeah, I think that's it. Bye!